Are you a film fan who loves the ultimate home video experience? Look no further than The Disconnected. Your host, Ryan Verrill, is your go-to source for the latest and most accurate information on home video releases, exclusive interviews with industry insiders and filmmakers, and has established a thriving community where every film and physical media enthusiast feels welcome. From hidden gems to blockbuster hits, The Disconnected brings you insider knowledge and a welcoming space to share your love of cinema. Watch every Thursday night at 9:30 Eastern, 6:30 Pacific for the live announcements show, and follow The Disconnected on social media to stay updated. Subscribe to The Disconnected on YouTube or on the podcast provider of your choice and dive into a world where every movie night is an adventure.
Hello, this is Aaron West. I am the author of the A24 New Wave. In this book, I look at A24's output and I make the argument that we are in a new wave movement right now. A24 plays a major role. This book has a supplemental podcast where each episode is a brief conversation about an A24 related topic, whether an actor, director, or even a genre. As I continue research for the book and conduct interviews, I expect to record podcast episodes with people involved with the company. You can find the podcast at cinejourneys.com or wherever you find podcasts, and we are proud to be members of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
The audio commentary. It's a dying art form, but here at One Track Mind, your wonky yet affable host Ryan Luis Rodriguez, analyze film through the prism of these embryonic forms of podcasting, one audio commentary at a time. Masterpieces, crapster pieces, live action, animation, cult classics, films literally no one has ever heard of. No track is too small and no track is too big. Join me and my guests from the entertainment world as we keep these features alive every other Tuesday. Hey, who else is going to discuss Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey one week and Citizen Kane the next? Us, that's who. Sure, you have to put up with my voice, but there's a certain give and take in this industry. That's One Track Mind, part of the Someone's Favorite Productions family and available wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome to the Life and Times of Barney Miller. It is a new podcast starring your old friend, me, Mike White, along with the one and only Chris Stachiw.
I am neither old nor your friend.
That's true. The enemy of many people.
the enemy of many a Kolchak fan.
Now we have a whole new audience that we can confuse and be very rude
make
to.
Angry.
Yes, make angry.
Make angry.
Because we will be talking about Barney Miller, the show that ran from the mid-'70s to the early '80s. And I have to say, before we started doing research on this, I had no idea that there were two pilots to this show.
I'll be honest with you. The only thing I knew about this show before we watched it is that Abe Vigoda was on it.
You were coming in really cold to this one.
I'm coming in super fresh, which is perfectly fine. I mean, you know, nothing wrong with that.
No, nothing at all. I am very curious because I remember maybe 3 episodes of this pretty clearly, and the rest of it I just have a good feeling about when I think about this show. So I'm very excited to explore this again and, you know, see all of these things that I saw when I think I watched all this stuff when it originally aired.
Like I said, I have zero frame of reference with this show, so we're kind of a little bit of different footing than on the last podcast we did together.
Yeah, this wasn't a something that you and your dad would sit down and watch.
Yeah, this is not something that I had any frame of reference other than Hal Linden having some great hair.
Oh, hell yes he does, and that stash.
Just a sexy man, a real A real sexy man, Hal Linden.
This show was created by Danny Arnold, who I was doing a little research on, and he had done a ton of stuff. He was an actor, he was a director, he was a writer, he was a producer. Of course, as he got older, it seemed like he was doing more things, less acting, more producing, more writing, more directing. But he was a co-director or an assistant director all the way back as far as 1949 from what I was seeing, and just had a really tremendous career throughout the years. And this was one of his babies, was Barney Miller. And they put out the pilot, which was called The Life and Times of Captain Barney Miller. It was part of a ABC summer anthology series called Just for Laughs, and it aired August 22nd, 1974. And it didn't really do too well.
I can't imagine why.
I didn't find the pilot offensive whatsoever.
No, I didn't find it offensive, but when you watch the pilot, The Life and Times of Captain Barney Miller, versus Ramon, the actual pilot of the show, the casting in the actual pilot seems a lot more interesting. Like, the actors involved are a lot more interesting. I mean, you know, some of the actors are completely different. You don't have Ron Glass. You don't have Jack Sue. You don't have James Gregory either. So, or is it James Gregory, or is it, I think it's Max Gale, right?
Max Gale, correct.
Those characters have made their presence very clearly and well established, like right off the bat. You don't have Gregory Sierra either. If you watch that and then you watch the original pilot, it's like, holy shit, like, what?
I was kind of tickled to see some of the actors that were playing these roles, because we've got Charles Hayde, who would go on to be one of the most famous cops of TV. He was in Hill Street Blues, and he was fantastic in that. He had a small role in Altered States. He's just he's a nice guy. I had a chance to speak to him years ago, and I would have asked him about this had I even known that he was part of this pilot, because I had no idea. And to me, he's basically playing the Wojciechowicz character, but he's not called Wojciechowicz.
There's a lot of stuff that is kept. I mean, pretty much the entire, like, plot of when they're in the station in the 12th is the same. But the recasting is completely different, and there's no opening with Barney and his wife, which I really appreciated in the actual pilot, because the interplay between Barbara Barry and Hal Linden is fantastic. Obviously, they recast her as well, because Abby Dalton is the one who played his wife in the original pilot.
The stuff with Barbara Barry is so New York of the 70s, and that was the thing. Because I will say what really kind of planted the seed of doing this podcast for me was probably about a year, maybe a year and a half ago. I was down at my mom's place and going through some of her streaming channels that she had. We bought her a Roku, and on one of those channels, they had Barney Miller, the whole series, and I watched this first episode. I watched Ramon, which came out a few months after. It wasn't that long after. It actually aired January 23rd, 1975. So it was September, October, December. So it was 3 months in between these two things, or 4 pretty much. And I saw Ramon and all the stuff for Barbara Barry. I'm just like, wow, yeah, New York in the mid 70s was a really rough place. And they're playing it for laughs, even though it's like somebody tried to break into our house last night. Okay, that's super scary. But then she turns it around and says, I know that they did because there's a clean spot on the window. It's like, yikes. But it's funny, though it's really kind of scary. And especially that she's got all the bars on the windows, and we forget just how nasty New York was at the time.
Really, really nasty.
Really nasty. It was before the whole Disneyfication.
That's what I like about this pilot is the redone pilot. It does give that, like you mentioned, that kind of idea, like it gives it a sense of time and place. And that's missing in the original pilot for the show.
And I will be 100% honest, coming back to the show after so many years, I didn't remember that Barney even had a wife. I didn't remember that he had a daughter and a son. So, and all of that stuff about the daughter and her fiance, no memory of any of that. So I'm very curious how long these characters are going to stay as part of the show.
Well, considering how the show has, 8 seasons? Probably not that much. I know that his wife plays a large part in the show because I think at some point they probably split up, I would assume. That seems like a fair assumption. But his daughter and his daughter's Jewish lawyer boyfriend. I don't know. Maybe they do have a bigger part.
Yeah, we will see.
Yeah, I mean, look, the thing about this show that is so different from Kolchak is this show is very funny. Intentionally funny. Not like we're laughing at how ridiculous some of the shit in the show is. Like Machi Manito being, like, invisible. Or not, Machi Manito was invisible, but, like, the episode with the invisible alien. Like, oh, of course, invisible alien, sure, why not?
Well, Machi Manito, he was practically invisible, but Kolchak could get those photographs of him, right?
Oh, that's right, yeah. So, Machi Mantow.
I was very happy to see Val Bisoglio in the pilot playing Sergeant Grimaldi, who seemed like he was... I know Fish is in the pilot. Abe Vigoda's in the Life and Times of Barney Miller, but Bisoglio felt a little like Fish, but he was also a little like Jack Sue. They had the same jokes about him owing the bookie, so just like the Jack Sue character. But that was strange but his face is so recognizable, and if memory serves, he was actually in one of the episodes of Kolchak. He was in the zombie episode.
Because I was like, if there's an episode he was in, it would have to be the one with all the mobsters.
I think he was in that scene of What's a Kolchak.
But he does show up later in Barney Miller. Again, so he's not completely lost. But he was not a series regular, which that must have been such a bummer to, like, not become a series regular on a show that gets picked up and you just get replaced by essentially 2 characters, right?
The Ron Glass character, who's played by Rod Perry as Sergeant Wilson here, he's barely a character. I was just like, wow, there's a black guy there. Okay.
He's got a mustache on.
Is he going to give us any sort of lines here?
Not at all. Actually, 0. And they do have the thing about him being as a rabbi. They do have that.
Which is funny as well.
Yeah, it works with both. It works in both versions.
Mm-hmm. The strangest thing for me is that of all the recasting, the wife is different, Grimaldi's different, Kaminsky, who becomes Wojciechowicz, he's different, all this. Vigoda's there, Hal Linden's there, and then the guy who plays the criminal is the same dude. It's like of all the people that they could have recasted, but Chuchu Malvale, he is still there doing the exact same performance, same inflections, everything. I would love to take these 2 episodes and cut some of them side by side because he is doing the exact same performance. It's fantastic.
But he looks a lot more Puerto Rican in the pilot that ended up airing. He it was something about the way it's lit the second time around that it's much less well lit. Does that make sense? So in lighting it a little darker, he looks more Puerto Rican, and it's really weird because they have more close up shots of him in the Life and Times of Barney Miller, and you can tell that he has green eyes. And then in the actual pilot that aired, they never close up on him as much as they do in the pilot, in the original pilot.
The thing I liked about the Ramon episode, the pilot that aired, is that we've got Gregory Sierra as Chano, who is deriding him and saying, it really offends me when I see a Puerto Rican like you who just gives all Puerto Ricans a bad name. I never really thought about it before, and this is going to sound like I am the stupidest person in the world. I never thought about what a United Colors of Benetton, the police station is. That you've got a Chinese person who is actually Japanese. Jaxu was actually Japanese, but he had a Chinese name. You've got a Puerto Rican character. You've got a black character. You've got an Italian character, and you've got a Jewish character. I never thought about how that fits. Oh, sorry. And a Polish character. I never thought about how that fits in and also is a representation of New York itself, if not our country.
So I was reading about the show, and that's one of the things about the show that actual cops like, is that this isn't just like a very whitewashed show. There's a lot of diversity and characters that are more representative of real people. Yeah, which, I mean, I do appreciate. I mean, the thing about the show is it's started in 1975, but it honestly feels like it could air today. There's something to be said for a show that's, you know, not like Kolchak where he's talking about dumb broads. And we may get that with this show, to be fair. I mean, we might. There is a high probability of that.
If we're going to get anybody talking about dumb broads or putting down minorities or homosexuals or, you know, anybody who's outside of the realm of what's in the police station, I have a feeling it's going to be Wojciechowicz because I think he's the character that is going to learn a lesson the most. I think Fish is pretty woke.
I mean, it's just Abe. Like, the thing that cracks me up about this show already is Abe Vigoda at this point. How old is he?
He's only 50 some years old. I was looking that up. I think he's 55.
I'm like, years from retirement. Like, I'm out of here. Like, dude, you're like not even that old. Get out of here.
He's only 10 years older than Hal Linden. Because I was watching a little documentary and Linden is like, oh, wait, yeah, he's only 10 years older than I am.
Vigoda did pass away.
I checked the website.
Yeah, is abevigodadead.com.
God, I couldn't believe that. And do you know that was like the first thing I did when I heard that he passed? I went to that website.
Well, and the thing about Abe Vigoda is, you know, he is, you know, a lot of people obviously know him from either this show or before this show. The thing I knew him from was as Sal Tessio in The Godfather. Yeah, which he's amazing as Sal Tessio in Godfather. But, you know, I am really glad that he is on this show. I know he's not on the show the entire time because he gets his own goddamn show. What's it called? Fish. So there you go. He's the only character that gets his own spin-off from the show. And man, spin-offs in the 70s were such a thing. I mean, we got Happy Days, which was then spun off into like 3 shows, right?
So there was Love American Style, which gave us Happy Days. Then Happy Days becomes Laverne and Shirley, Joni Loves Chachi.
Squiggies or whatever?
Was there a Squiggy show?
Was there not?
How about this one, Chris, which you may or may not know? Mork and Mindy.
Yeah, I know that.
Okay,
I
good.
know that. Oh, come on. Sir, how dare you? Of course, fucking Robin Williams was on Happy Days.
Well, it just makes sense that an alien from Ork is going to be coming to Milwaukee.
Have you seen Milwaukee?
Sure.
If you go to Milwaukee, you can see a statue of Henry Winkler, the Fonz. I have my picture in front of it.
Were there any other spin-offs from that?
Oh, there's a lot from Happy Days. It's like,
well, it's just that it's up there with All in the Family, because you had the Jeffersons, you had Gloria, you had Maude. I mean, it feels like there's more that I'm forgetting there too.
What about the Fonz?
I don't think the Fonz ever had his own show.
He had a cartoon, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
So is that not a spin-off?
Okay, here we go.
There were 7 different spin-offs of Happy Days. Laverne and Shirley, Blansky's Beauties, Mork and Mindy, Out of the Blue, Joni Loves Chachi, The Fonz, and the Happy Days Gang, and Laverne and Shirley with special guest star The Fonz. Those last 2 were animated. The most successful of the spin-offs was obviously Laverne and Shirley.
Did you get a chance to watch the full version of the Ramon pilot? There is an extra scene that is available on the DVD version of the pilot.
Yeah, the one with Ron Glass, right?
Yeah, where he's in drag.
Yeah, boy, sure.
Yeah. That isn't on the first disc of the Barney Miller set. It's like included as an extra is the Ramon pilot with that extra scene as part of it.
Did they ever explain why that scene is there?
It fits with the earlier scene, I believe, when they're talking about the perverts in the park. But yeah, they cut that for syndication. And I was reading reviews of the Barney Miller set on Amazon, and people were complaining that these are the syndicated versions, so that we're going to be missing little pieces throughout this.
Well, and that's not surprising. I mean, unfortunately, with a show from 75, a lot of the stuff's been lost.
And it's just a shame. Yeah. I mean,
we had a hard time getting stuff for Kolchak. I mean, we had a hard time getting Kolchak scripts and, finding good copies of Kolchak alone. I mean,
in those movie versions where they would take 2 episodes and smash them together, those aren't out there officially anyplace. Those were just copied off a Sci-Fi Channel.
Or is it Sci-Fi or Chiller?
Oh, God. It could have been Chiller.
Chiller, everyone's favorite TV network that they forgot existed.
I definitely remember there was one that was Sci-Fi because watching the commercials was more entertaining than watching the show.
I mean, look, here's the thing with this versus Kolchak. I mean, Kolchak had, 20 episodes. This is 170. And this is also the other thing that's kind of different about this podcast versus the last podcast that we did together. This is a 20-minute sitcom. We're not just doing an episode of the podcast, because we would be doing this until the end of time. I don't, 170, yeah. That's what, 3...
Well, I was doing the math, and it was like, if we do 2 Barney Millers per one podcast, it would take us, 6 or 8 years? I can't remember. And then if we did 3 episodes, it would take us this long. It was ridiculous. But we were in for the long haul.
If we did 1 a week, it would be 3 1/4. 3 years, 4 months. But yeah, we're not doing that. We have lives.
It's going to take us a long time to get through this, though.
Yeah, which is fine. I mean, it took us 3 years to get through Kolchak, and this time around, it'll probably take us longer because, I mean, at some point, we're going to have to talk about Fish. But Fish isn't for 4 seasons.
Right, and unfortunately, Fish, it was 2 seasons. Only 1 was included on the box set. I found 2 episodes through nefarious means, but I'm unable to find any seeders, if you know what I mean.
Uh-huh. No one coming and seeding your torrent?
Exactly.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, we're lucky that Barney Miller has even been released. Is Fish like All in the Family?
God, it's been so long since I've seen it, I don't remember. I only remember the first episode of it with any sort of clarity. I think he's going to be very frequently talking about his wife, Bernice, and I don't think we see her until Fish.
It focused on the domestic side of Fish's life. He and Bernice become foster parents to 5 racially mixed children, known as persons in need of supervision, or PINs. So that is not at all what I was expecting. And like I said, isn't it kind of like All in the Family or Different Strokes?
Right, yeah, that's where the white savior takes the 2 ghetto children away from their poverty and puts them in the lap of luxury. Fish isn't making Mr. Drummond money.
But yeah, so we're going to talk about that at some point, I would assume. And it sounds like a completely different show, like in a bizarre way. I'm super excited because, like I said, I mean, I watched this episode and all I could think was this show does not seem like the kind of show I was expecting.
Right. I'm curious to see how many of these play well in today's modern times.
Right. I mean, it's like it's very different for 1975, and it still plays well in 2020. Is kind of my point. But yeah, I mean, I know that a lot of the regular cast members, some of them leave, one of them passes away.
Yeah, I remember Chano leaves. I think Ron Glass is there the whole time, isn't he?
Hal Linden, Max Gale, Ron Glass, and James Gregory are there for the long haul. But yeah, Abe Vigoda ends up leaving because of Fish. Jack Sue ends up passing away. So I do love the fact that we may be able to actually speak with some of the main... I mean, Max Gale is a main member of the cast. So Yeah, I'm really excited that that is a possibility because, I mean, look, we did, on the last podcast, we did get to talk to Mark DeWidziak, and we got to talk to Marlon Bird?
Eugene Bird.
Joey Jojo Jr. Shabadoo. Oh, my God. Yeah, no, I'm excited to maybe get to, talk to Hal Linden and some other people. And also, I think we're the only Barney Miller podcast out there, which is fun.
I saw something, I don't know if it was a fan site or what it was, but it was like inside the 12th precinct or something, which I know there's an extra on the box set, which is named something similar. And I'm like, okay, I don't really see anything from you. So that's one reason why I didn't call this podcast that. But, thanks for the name though, Chris.
If that podcast only has like a couple episodes and they stop posting, that's their problem, not ours. That's the way it works in podcast land. So that is the way podcasts work. So, how many episodes are we covering in episode 3?
All right. Well, I want to thank Chris for being my co-host on this venture of Barney Miller dumb. And I got to thank John Walker for putting us together another awesome score, another great theme song. So thank you so much, John. And I want to thank everybody for listening. This is our pilot, and we will be back next month with a look at 3 episodes of Barney Miller.
Are we going to record another version of this pilot and release it? And just and one where I am not your co-host. I'm recast. They recast me.
Chris was busy directing a play, and so I ended up getting Vincent Bugliosi here to be my co-host.
All of a sudden, it's just Father Malone. It's just like, I am in the Barney Miller podcast with your hosts, Mike White and Father Malone. What? What am I listening to?
Or I call him Chris Stachiw, even though it's not him.
Yeah, very distinct voice. Definitely not mine. Oh,
I was glad that they changed the names of these characters, that it wasn't Wojciechowicz as Kaminsky, Max Gale as Kaminsky, or, Grimaldi. They let his name go, so I was glad for that.
Yeah, no, that would have been even more bizarre, right?
Maybe, the wife stays the same. I think both the kids were recast as well, so Elizabeth Miller, yeah, it was 2 different women playing her, but...
Does Ron Glass's character not have the same name?
Ron Glass's character was Sergeant Wilson, and he is Ron Harris in this. Ron Glass playing Ron Harris. Not going to be confusing.
He was on Firefly. Did you know that?
I've heard that. So, Chris, where can people find you when you're not talking about Barney Miller?
When I am not talking about Barney Miller, you can find me on Twitter at casualty_Chris. You can also find me on the Culture Cast. That is my movie podcast that I do once to twice a week. That is over at culturecast.com. We also do a little podcast called Dreams for Sale, where we talk about Twilight Zone 1985. And I do another podcast called Chronicles from the Crypt, where we talk about Tales from the Crypt. And I do another podcast called The One Season Show, where we talk about TV shows that only lasted 1 season. I am busy, if you can't tell, doing podcasting. But you know what? I am not going to complain because it is a lot of fun.
It's a lot of podcasts.
A lot of talking, a lot of using of the voice and editing. Anytime someone says, hey, isn't podcasting fun? My response is, the 1% is fun, but 99% isn't. What about yourself, Mike?
Yeah, so I am with you on this show, and then I'm with you on the Dreams for Sale, Twilight Zone 85 podcast, and then I do a little thing called the Projection Booth, where once a week I talk about movies. And this year I'm talking about movies that most people haven't seen or maybe even heard of. So I'm sure that the ratings will go through the roof.
I mean, I can only watch so many Japanese New Wave films from 1949 so many times.
1969.
I wasn't directly referencing, I was just being a smart ass.
Hello and welcome to Tumbleweeds and TV Cowboys. My name is Hunter. In this podcast, I'll be joined by a different guest each week to discuss a classic Western movie or TV show. I've been a fan of classic Westerns for as long as I can remember, and in recent years, they've become very nostalgic for me. I love the aesthetic, the tropes, and I love seeing different filmmakers' takes on them. At their best, they're incredibly entertaining, rewatchable, and some of my all-time favorite movies are Westerns. We'll mostly focus on Western movies made in Hollywood, but we'll also be covering spaghetti Westerns, and one thing I'm very excited to get into are Western TV shows. I've got some amazing guests coming on the show, film professors, historians, and podcasters. And Tumbleweeds and TV Cowboys is part of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network, and many guests on the show will be from other shows on the network. Thanks for listening.